Hey guys, I'm Clay Millican, driver of the Parts Plus Top Fuel Dragster, and this is The Skinny.
From the Fatheadz Eyewear Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota.
I'm excited about today's show here. We've got Rico back in the house with us. You've been gone for a couple of weeks there, my friend, out there traveling the NHRA circuit. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, I have been out with our guest.
Oh, that's right. Exactly. Speaking of NHRA, welcome to the Skinny, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Stout here, Rico Elmore. We've got the track dude, Michael Young, back there behind the controls, running everything. Thanks a lot to him as well. By the way, fresh off of a race weekend, his first race weekend of the year down there at the St. Pete GP. How'd that go for you, Mr. Michael Young?
It was excellent.
Let's talk about Southwest Airlines.
Yeah, did you pick up any vouchers at Southwest?
They're the best. I love Southwest.
Rumor has it Michael Young picked up $900 in vouchers from Southwest because he took their option to change his flight. So, boom, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah, you wait until I tell Roger Penske you're getting docked.
Great stuff. We've got a really good friend of mine on the show here today. And, you know, when we have these competitors, world-class competitors on this show, and, boy, we've had no shortage of them, world-class athletes, their mental fortitude is really what separates them from the rest of us mere mortals, if you will. And this guy always has a smile on his face, absolutely a Southern gentleman, about the polar opposite of me whenever it comes to that. But he is the true definition of don't mistake kindness for weakness, because he is also one of the strongest, mentally, one of the strongest people I've ever met in my entire life. My good friend Clay Millican will join us here today on The Skinny. Welcome, brother.
I tell you what, I'm glad to be here, and it's an honor. I mean, you got Ken Stout and Rico. I mean, you can't get any better than that. This is going to be fun. I appreciate y'all asking me to come on.
And he also knows how to flatter us very well.
Yes. I'm glad he's only your good friend. I mean, but anyhow.
So, hey, man, I want to I'm not trying to kick this thing off on a dark side, but we're coming up on 7 years now, the loss of your son. How is Clay Millican doing? How is your family doing? I know you think about him every single day. You know, whenever I talk about being one of the strongest people I've ever met mentally, that situation that you went through is just horrific for any parent, of course, but the way you handled it, absolutely class act, second to none. And I know it's not, my guess is not getting any easier. Can't imagine what you went through, but how are you doing? How's the family doing, my friend?
Oh, I mean, we're doing good, but that is certainly one of those things, you know, they say time heals all wounds. That is not true. I mean, you simply learn to deal with it. And you know, there are days, there are moments where, you know, it comes to the surface, and, you know, things probably hit me and Donna a lot different than they once did. But there's one thing we know, that, you know, his time here was done, his work here was done, and ours is not. And so what that means is we've got to go out and do all we can to help others and do what it is that we got to complete, you know, in our time on this earth here. And you know what? That little dude had one heck of a quick 22-year run on here, did more than most people did in a long lifetime, and our work here is not done, and so we just got to keep striving.
Yeah, and you know, one of the reasons I bring it up is because you're such a great example of how to handle it, how you did handle it, how you're currently handling it, and I think your words inspire so many other people that are going through the same situation, and maybe they think there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but people like you inspire and help more people than you would ever know.
Well, I mean, you know, it's crazy, you know, how many people you meet at the races, and you know, even to this day, you know, I still have people come up and say, hey, you know, sorry to hear about your son. And you know, a lot of times, I'll be honest, you know, I don't want to hear it if it's, especially like if it's, you know, maybe race day and you're trying to, you know, kind of get in that zone and be ready to go racing. But I meet so many people that say, you know, they've had it happen to them. And the first thing I do is give them a hug and say, hey, you're part of a club that no parent should be a part of. And, you know, there's just like this bond there for people that have, been through what we're going through. And you just got to know that all of this has happened for a reason. We just don't know what the answer to it is right now. And the one thing I do know is, Dalton would have been horribly upset with me and Donna if we let that ruin our life. It affected our life. It changed the people that we are, and it changes everything that you do every day. But, the best thing you can do is to put a positive on it and move forward, and just make sure that you're doing all you can to help others, and do what you can to maybe help prevent, some parent going through what we went through.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't even know if you guys know or not, but we sponsored Dalton, and it was one of those things that I've known Clay an incredible amount of time as well, and the kid was amazing, and what Clay just said about how the amount of things that he did over the amount of years that he was here is second to none. I mean, is absolutely amazing, and he had a good teacher, had a great guy showing him the way, and Clay Millican has always been one of my favorites, and teamed up with Doug Stringer, which how can you not love Stringer? As a team, and to watch the magic that they put together, and to watch them slay the dragons, the big teams. It is unbelievable to watch what they do, and on the budget that they do it. I know a lot about it, a lot more than probably many do, just with my relationship with these guys. But I'm proud to call Clay a friend, and have for a long time. And yes, watching the way he dealt with everything, and him and his family, he was pretty much right back out there. And I think what I knew of Dalton, I think that's probably what he would have wanted you to do, right?
Oh, 100%, no doubt about it. And, you mentioned Doug there. I know, Rico, you and Doug are very, very close, and y'all are actually involved together in the Jason Leffler Memorial Race, which is pretty cool. One of the biggest midget races there is in the country. And I know Fatheadz and Rico have a whole lot to do with what's going on there. And, Doug and his friends have done a wonderful job, with the Jason Leffler Memorial Race. And if you've not ever been to that is one of those events that is a must go to.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and I think Stringer is as bad as I am, or I'm as bad as he is. But the day that I met Stringer was, he was running. I guess it was called Bush at the time, but I guess it's Xfinity today. But he was running that, and he had the Great Clips car, and again was running it on the shoestring budget, but was still getting things done. And I absolutely fell in love with the guy. Just an amazing individual. And again, he's another one that's got a not quite the smile Clay's got on his face all the time, but he's got a hell of a smile on his face, even when you're in the final round. And man, I was pulling for you guys, buddy. How did that feel?
I tell you what, it was a absolute wild weekend. Basically started off Friday night. I mean, our freaking race car wouldn't even start. It's like, how does that happen? How does the race car not start? But we're in a battle for the last spot into the shootout, the call out, whatever, NHRA is calling that deal. And, we're trying to stay in front of Doug Coletta and Sean Langdon, and the car won't start. And, everything just kind of like, holy moly, what else can go wrong? Well, what else can go wrong? We have our bottom end guy that has a family emergency. He has to leave and go home. So now we're short a guy, and we end up mixing our people up. And somehow, some way, we end up in the final round coming up a whopping 12 thou short of, leaving Phoenix with a Wally. It was a heck of a weekend. It's kind of crazy. We all have these racing stories of, this was bad, that was bad, this didn't go right, that didn't go right. And then the next thing you know, it turns into one of those weekends that after it's done and over with, and it was so stressful and so crazy, that it's like, man, that was pretty cool. Our supercharger guy was doing the bottom end. The driver guy was, helping take the superchargers apart, and the wind lights just keep coming on. And, we ended up with, we had basically the whole Antron Brown team over there helping us get ready for the final, including Antron himself, so, what was starting out as a very rough weekend turned into a pretty dang awesome weekend. Would have been a fantastic weekend if we were 13 thou better. Like I said, we lost by 12 thou. So heck of a weekend.
Yeah. And so we just started our program with the NHRA where we provide the aerial coverage with the drone. And, I was all the way down at the finish line. Well, the old finish line, but I was down at the end of the track. And I'm on the radio calling back up to the starting line, and I'm saying, "What's going on with Millican? I saw one car wasn't starting. I'm like, "What's going on up there? What's going on up there?" Because we're flying and we only have a certain amount of flight time, so we're sitting there, and Chad radioed back to me. He goes, "Millican's car won't start," and so. And I hate seeing that. I mean, I hate seeing that for anyone, but I definitely hate seeing it for those guys. Just the friendship and caring about those guys as well as many others out there. But to watch how they turned it around, I did not know about your bottom end guy, so that's even crazier. But to watch it all go down, and you said Antron Brown's team jumping in, throwing down with you guys. That's really what the NHRA is about. You would never see that. I've seen it in sprint car racing. I'm sure there's other places. I've seen it in the the NHRA. Definitely never have seen it in NASCAR. They may go over and help flatten your tire so you don't get back out. But it's a heck of a family out there, and it's pretty amazing to watch that all go down.
Yeah, I saw they had that on the broadcast where they'd mentioned that you had lost one of your guys there, and you could see Antron Brown's team mixed in there. And, I immediately, it was no surprise to me. I mean, that's just the camaraderie. I think that's camaraderie really behind the scenes of almost all racing for the most part. Given the opportunity, what racers want to do is race other people, and they want to race them at their best. They don't want to take the cheap shot and beat them while they're down. They want to say, no excuses here, man. I want to beat you straight up. So I know that those guys jumped in, but I couldn't help but think, because you guys are such a synced up system, every one of those teams, where everybody has their own specific job, and it's done a specific way for each team. How does somebody immediately blend in? Even a bottom-end guy that does bottom-end stuff for Antron Brown isn't going to do it the same way you guys do it. So how does that work out? I mean, do you have somebody follow up behind him and say, yeah, I think we're all good here? Or do you just let them do their thing and say, we trust you, man?
Well, I mean, it was pretty fun to watch. I was relieved of my supercharger duties for the final round there because of those guys showing up. And it was kind of cool. So our car chief last year is a guy named Chris Newton, and he went to Antron Brown's team. So I think second round, I walk over and I see Brad Mason, car chief, co-crew chief for Antron. And I said, can I borrow Chris Newton? Because that was a natural fit. Chris Newton was on our car last year and knew where all the tools were, knew what the parts and pieces were. And so he came over for second round, and then the next round we had maybe one more guy that, anyway, to answer your question, again, our people were kind of out of place anyway, because we were short a guy, our supercharger guys doing the bottom end. And so young Mr. Matt Sackman from Antron's team, he was on one side and our supercharger guy was on the other. So as far as not doing it the same, we weren't doing it the same anyway, because we didn't have our normal people in our normal places. And so they just made it happen, and I got to be honest, I know those guys are all pros, and they were not going to, put me in a car that was going to be in danger. And, I ran that thing plumb past the finish line trying to win that race. And that was just all there is to it. But it's amazing to watch guys that are true pros at, servicing nitro engines because it is so very little time, especially in between the semis and the finals. But you are right. Sometimes you can get too many people in there, but I don't know how they did it, but somehow, some way, there wasn't even a lot of talking, even with the extra people there. I think maybe because Chris Newton was on our car last year, he directed Antron's guys as to where he thought they should be or what they should be doing. And it was pretty seamless, to be honest with you. It certainly made it a little easier on me, for stress level as to whether or not we're going to make it up there in time or not. I have had times where, I've got to put my helmet on and put all my gear on and get in the race car and strapped in before we ever leave the pit area. And that wasn't even the case for this final round. It was, kind of like unusually compared to first and second round, it was kind of like business as usual, thanks to, all the guys from over at the Matco team. It was cool.
Great behind-the-scenes stuff, man. Good stuff, man. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back with more from the man that loves to wear a smile on his face, Mr. Clay Millican.
This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 Mud Terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We have a great friend of this show, long time friend, Clay Millican, has joined us here from his home in Tennessee. We appreciate him taking the time here, fresh off of back-to-back weekends, really a three-peat weekend if you count the testing session. But we're going to take a step back here and talk about how you got going in this business because, as I recall, you came from a family that just had endless amounts of cash, and you just went to Dad and said, hey, man, I really think I could be a professional race car driver if you could flip me a couple mil to get going, and boom, next thing you know, Clay Millican's racing cars, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it happened. I hopped on the private jet and flew in, and the next thing you know, I'm winning championships over on the IHRA side. That is certainly the fairy tale that is a tale, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm still to this day a bracket racer at heart. I was a sportsman racer. I still feel that way. And, I've been told many times, right place, right time kind of thing. But the truth is I met a lot of great people, and it started with a guy named Raymond King, who then eventually connected me to a young guy named Peter Lehman. And the next thing you know, I quit my job of driving a forklift in a Kroger food warehouse after 11 years. And here I am from 1998 to 2021. I've been paying my bills driving a Top Fuel car. I mean, that's my life story in a very, very short span. But bracket racer, race locally, that somehow, some way that I wanted to do this badly enough that I got the opportunity and took it and run with it and had never looked back. But I do occasionally still have dreams of being at that warehouse driving that forklift, and I wake up in cold sweats thinking that may
You should put a little model forklift on the shelf there. Keep you remember where you came from, where it all started, man. Keep you humble. You've always been very humble, though.
Get him a Kroger hat, But, so when you did this and you said, I'm done with the Kroger bit, what did your wife say?
Well, funny enough, she just walked into the office here and she's trying to be really quiet. So the opportunity came for me to get my license in a Top Fuel car, which Peter Lehman was paying for. Donna, my wife of how many years? We figured this up.
37 this year.
Be 37 years this year.
Awesome. Congrats.
Encouraged me. She didn't encourage me. She told me to quit my job.
She is an absolute saint. 37 years of that.
37 years. Yeah, it's crazy. But she not only encouraged me to quit my job at Kroger, but she basically said, you need to quit your job at Kroger. She knew how badly that I wanted to race for a living. And, she's like, here's your chance, and I said, well, I can keep missing days, Eventually they'll probably fire me for missing days to go racing, because I was racing all the time on weekends and missing one day a week and all those sort of things. And she's like, just do it. Just quit. We'll figure it out. She had a normal job, and it was not easy. I'm gonna tell the truth. I mean, back then we're talking, again, late 90s, you used to get credit cards in the mail that would come, already souped up for, $2,500 or $5,000. Believe me, we used those to pay bills, and took many, many years to get all that stuff caught up. But she was the one that pushed me to just quit my job and figure it out. And that's what we did. We figured it out. But, it all happened, like I say, good people, and had a lot of guidance and direction from Raymond King and Peter Lehman, and certainly a supportive wife and family that, might have helped us pay some bills along the way.
So when Peter Lehman entered the picture, and he picks up Warner Trucking as a sponsor, and of course you made that car so successful over the course of your IHRA tenure there, was there a conversation right there, at some point fairly early on to Peter to say, hey man, is there any way to work me into the budget? I mean, some sort of salary into the budget so I can dedicate more time to this team. Is that how that conversation goes?
No, not really. To be honest, at the moment of knowing I was going to get my license, I quit. Peter didn't have an intention of running a full-time Top Fuel team at that moment. He had put together a deal with the Chicago White Sox because it was the opening of Route 66 Raceway. He's a Chicago guy. And I mean, for all we knew, it was that one race weekend, and that was going to be it. I mean, once that was in 98. So I went 98 and 99. I quit my job May 10th of 98, which was when I got my license, and also my older sister's birthday is the reason I can remember that. Yeah, I went essentially 2 years with, no paycheck. We had Donna, and it wasn't like she was, making millions, because she wasn't. She just had a normal job. But yeah, we gambled. I mean, we gambled on ourselves, and again, a lot of people helped and made sure that we were able to keep the lights on. But, Peter initially, it was one of those things. He's like, hey, we can do this one race. And then the following year we did, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5, a handful of races in Nick Bonafante's car of Bonafont Clutches. Nitro Nick, everybody knows him if they're in the business. And, and then Peter made the decision to buy all the equipment, and we actually bought all the equipment from Tommy Johnson Jr. and Sr. It was their family equipment, and that was in 2000. And my first year Top Fuel racing, I think I made like $18,000 for the year, which was,
Killed it.
way more than I had made the previous 2 years.
So that wasn't enough for the jet fuel. Is that what you're getting at here?
Wasn't enough to pay
not
Dad
hardly,
back all
not
those
hardly.
millions you borrowed?
Yeah. Jeez.
Now, I knew it was a scrap from the bottom up, and we love hearing those stories because, there's a million excuses out there why I can't do it or why I didn't do it, and then there's always people like you that blow all that stuff right out of the water. So just one of those scrappers that wanted it desperately bad. And fortunately for you, I mean, I think some things did fall in place when you stumble onto somebody like a Peter Lehman that really brings a few of the important pieces of the puzzle together. And then, of course, you doing what you did to make it happen on your end. It's just a wonderful story.
Well, I mean, this is a quote straight from my mom, and you got to have the want to. If you want to do something bad enough that you're willing to basically give up anything and everything else there is in life, you can figure it out. I mean, for me, I wanted to do it. And luckily, Donna was willing to not have all the nicest things, house cars and shoes and, you name it. We did without, and until we were able to figure out how to make it pay our bills. And, and she continued to work a normal job up until 2008. And since then, she's raised our kids, and, she's, traveled with me to the races nonstop since then, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, we are together, 24 hours a day, and it's funny, every now and then she's like, go to the shop, go do something. I'm sick of you in the house, or whatever the case may be. That's just the truth to the matter.
The old
man,
line
we
of
have,
"Don't you have something to do?"
Yeah, don't you have somewhere to go?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Totally get it.
And a TV star as well, man. You've done plenty of television broadcasts along the way. You've been blessed with a couple of different gigs.
Yes, I mean, I really, really have. I mean, you and I have done a lot of cool stuff together. I did the Pinks All Out shows for a while. I did a couple of one show that was on MTV2 that was a lot of fun, where we, took kids from Universal Technical Institute and had them build cars. And, I did a show called Drag Race High, which was with high school kids. And I really, really enjoy that. And I now seem to have kind of turned that into, the YouTube thing. You were talking a little bit earlier about, behind the scenes kind of thing. And that's kind of what I've been doing with my YouTube channel, which is, a lot of fun, and it's a high quality production, all done with this right here, the old iPhone. And, but, lots of people are watching, and it's been so much fun, to be able to kind of share everything going on. And I've been very fortunate in that, Doug Stringer, which we talked about earlier, has, not said a word about, man, you can't be in the lounge showing what's going on with the tune-up and that sort of thing. Now, I don't always show the screen, but if you go and watch what we're doing on YouTube, you are getting 100% behind the scenes, what's going on with our race team. I think while we were on here, qualifying from Phoenix just popped up on the channel, and you can see my reaction and what I said when the freaking race car wouldn't start after Q1. It's all there, and it's fun. The social media thing is huge, and people like Parts Plus, Summit Racing, which is now on board with our team, they are wanting those, that information. They want to be able to share that with, their customers. And luckily for me, I like talking a lot, and I don't mind holding my phone up and filming it, and you get to see what's happening, and it's fun.
Yeah. So tell me, and I may know the story briefly or partially, I should say, how did you and Stringer get hooked up?
Well, so I met Doug Stringer through Lance Larson. Lance and he go back to the Jim Epler funny car days, because Doug actually was a crew guy on Jim Epler's funny car.
Oh,
and
wow.
The only way that Doug was able to work on the car was if he brought sponsorship, which is kind of funny that Mike Clover was the crew chief on that car. And so
You want to work
Doug,
on this, you got to bring money. I've never heard that.
you want to
I've
work
never
on it,
heard
you
that
gotta
one.
bring
That's a
money.
great line, man.
I like that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, y'all really need to get Doug on here, because he has so many great, war stories of all the things that he's done. But Doug Stringer is a guy that loved drag racing, and he ended up going NASCAR racing to make a living. So back to your question, how did Doug and I meet? So Lance had introduced us, and Lance had let me know, hey, anything you see Great Clips, the Great Clips 38 car when Doug owned the Busch team, Casey Kane and the Hendricks Motorsports car, if you saw Great Clips, Doug Stringer was involved in that. So, I am a guy that, pays his bills with racing a race car that has sponsors on it. So Doug started getting lots of phone calls from a guy in Drummond's, Tennessee. You need to take Great Clips drag racing. And, man, I chased him forever and ever and ever. And it's crazy how it worked out. But he finally invited me to bring the race team to the Jason Leffler Memorial party that they have before the event. And I was driving for Dexter Tuttle at the time. And so it worked out that race was leading into a match race, the World Series of Drag Racing at Cordova. Doug's in Southern Illinois. So we took the race car by there, unloaded it, had it on display during his party. And that was the turning point for Doug, he said. He said, when those rigs rolled up his driveway and rolled it down his driveway, he knew he was going back drag racing. And that was kind of how it started. But I got to add this real quick. I know I'm running long here. So Doug calls me finally, and he's like, I think I just want to be a team owner, and I want to know if you'll drive a funny car. I said, of course I will. I knew that was way better than driving a forklift, so I'm like, yes, of course I will.
At least
And
faster.
so, yeah,
Going
it's way faster,
forklift.
and so we get to the point of we're kind of talking budgets and what it takes. And I said, this whole funny car thing, I'm all in on it. Gladly do it. It'll be a cool new challenge for me, as something different. And then we got to discussing the cost of funny car bodies and how many you need. And Doug's like, that dragster thing's pretty cool. Why don't we just stick with that? So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So from driving a forklift to lifting blowers, if you will, from time to time. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back with more from Clay Millican. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Once again, welcome back to The Skinny. We have Clay Millican on the show with us here today from his home in Tennessee. Ken Stout, Rico Elmer joins me here on the set. And I heard you, Clay, I heard you say before, I know I'm running long. Get rid of that internal clock as a broadcaster that's inside of your head. You can talk as long as you want on the show. That's why you're on the show. We want to hear you talk. We want to hear your side of it, man.
Yeah. Nobody cares what we're talking about.
I can remember being on headphones in a studio with you, Ken, and people in my ear going, "That's enough. Wrap it up. Wrap it up." So that kind of does happen to me from time to time, because I do get on a rambling roll. And I may have had Ken Stout before tell me doing, like, come on, shorten it up, wrap it up. That's when we're under some time constraints. So.
Well, somebody needs to do that to him. So, that's beside the point.
People, you understand all too well now. Rico certainly has a much better feel for it now as well. And this is just a really relaxed show. But people, I think Tony Stewart just got a real good introduction to it as well, being on the NASCAR broadcast. But as you well know, people have no clue how fast the pace is when you're doing a TV show. It seems like they're sitting there relaxed. They got plenty of time to talk about everything, but truth of the matter is, man, everything is short and quick, and no matter what you say, you didn't say it quick enough.
No, that's for sure. I'm like I say, I learned that, and man, I'm trying to think. I don't know how many shows you and I did together, but it was a lot. I don't even remember what studio we did that stuff in. Somewhere near Chicago. I can't even remember. Did we
do them in Chicago? Because I did those also down in North Carolina for a while. I was doing some IHRA stuff in North Carolina. So bounced around. Yeah, I don't know either, but working together, I know for sure for a while there.
It's funny that so we were at I think we were at Norwalk. Is that where you guys ran a lot, Clay?
Yep.
At Norwalk? Yep. Yeah. So
we did.
I was at Norwalk, and we were riding around on the golf cart, me and Dom Lagana. Okay. And he goes, "Go down this way, right down here, go down this way." I'm driving the golf cart down there. I'm like, where are we going? And he goes, "No, seriously, go right down here." He goes, "Stop right here." And I stopped. He says, "You see that right there?" He points over. I said, "Yeah." He said, "That was Clay Millican's pit. He was the only guy that had a concrete pad.
Yep.
The rest of us were in the dirt."
I knew where you were going because Bill Bader, being Bill Bader,
exactly.
He created the thing saying, if you want a concrete pad, you can pour it, and that'll be yours. And he gets the pits concreted by the racers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
that was 100% Peter Lehman move right there, because every time we showed up at Norwalk, we were making a run to the the lumber yard and buying piles of plywood, because you can't work on a top fuel car in the grass. It's hard to do. And so Peter called Bill Sr. and said, "Hey, I want to pave my spot." And he's like, "You are not paving anything on my grass." Bill Sr., Bill Jr., same way. They love their grass there at Norwalk. And he's like, "Not happening. But you can pour a spot of concrete. You can do that." And
something that'll last forever.
Yeah. Yep. He hung up on him, called the concrete company right away. And so, yes, for many, many years, we had the only concrete spot. And I go and visit that every year myself. It's pretty cool to hear Dom took you over there to show you that, because I still go visit it too, because we won a lot of races off of that concrete spot right there.
And that's exactly what he said. I mean, that was where he was going with it. He was like, Clay Millican wore people out off of that concrete pad right there. And it was just so cool to hear the story. And then, and I, of course, have, seen you out at the track and completely space it. But I just thought that was so cool that, that was what he was wanting to go look at. So
let's talk a little bit about
crazy.
those magical IHRA years. In 2000, you finally go full-time racing. 2001, boy, you unleashed on everybody. 6 Top Fuel championships from 01 to 2006. 52 national event wins, 60 appearances in Top Fuel and final round over the course of those times. Nobody's surpassed that. By the way, these records will never be broken because, in large part because of rule changes and just what has happened over the course of time. But it's unbelievable. You won 68% of all the races entered from 2001 to 2006. The only driver to advance to every final round in a single season. The most consecutive Top Fuel event wins at 10. The most consecutive round wins in all of Top Fuel racing with 30 consecutive wins. That's unbelievable. And the most wins in a season with 11. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You'll retire the IHRA world record in Top Fuel at a lapse time of 4:48, 328 miles an hour. That's quarter mile, so we know that one won't be broken. What you guys did over there, nothing short of exceptional, my friend. I mean, you just continued to pound on those guys.
That stuff, it don't even make sense. I bracket raced and sportsman raced enough to know that kind of stuff is really, really not supposed to happen. What we did was certainly, it was just a magical run, right people, right everything, and the rules fit our combination. The IHRA rules were pretty stiff, in that you could only run the supercharger at 25 over. It was just, I don't know. We had a magical combination, and the truth is we were highly disappointed if we did not win the race, which is crazy to believe. And I got to tell this right quick. So 2 of the guys that worked on that Werner car, one of them is named Justin Crossland. He worked with me for 11 years. We hired him right out of high school. Another guy named Chris Martin came from the same little town in Wenatchee, Washington. He worked with me for 10 years. Justin Crossland, when he started, he worked for 2 full race seasons as this fresh out of high school kid that we never went to the racetrack with him for 2 years that we didn't go to the final. Now, I'm not saying we won every one of them, but for 2 years straight, every race he went to, we went to the final.
Destroyed these guys. You spoiled.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Ruined that guy.
Well, this story gets better with these 2. So when kind of my time came to an end with the team being based here in my little area of near Drummond's, Tennessee, those 2 guys went to work for somebody y'all may have heard of that's won a few races in the last few years, named Steve Torrance. So think about what those 2 guys have done. Wow. They went from what we did, essentially almost all of my IHRA stuff, and rolled right over to Steve Torrance. So their winning record has got to be ridiculous. I mean, it's got to be up there with the best of the best, if you combine what they did on the Werner car and what they're doing, with the Capco car right now. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But Ken, back to those numbers and stuff, I hear that stuff every now and then, and it's just, it certainly makes me smile, but it's pretty cool. I have to tell the truth. I've got 36 of those trophies are in my living room, just because when we built this house that I live in, I had maybe a handful of them. And my best friend is who built my house. And we measured one of the Iron Men, and he built this massive cabinet that my TV's in. And I never thought ever that that cabinet would not hold all of them. That's just hard to believe. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that the world championship trophies are actually, they're wrapped in plastic, but they're above me in the attic right now because we run out of room. We built a cabinet that would hold 36 Iron Men, and we overflowed it. So that's a good problem.
I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you something here because I lived this experience, and I'm curious if you've ever felt the same way. So over a course of a couple of years, my son had some great success, and I think it was 2010. He became the youngest champion in the Pirelli World Challenge Series at the time. I think it was 25 or 28 years old. So he just had an incredible run that season. It was his rookie year, most laps led, most cars passed. We won races where, like you said before, you just did things that we know now in racing just typically do not happen. I mean, somebody blew the end of the straightaway, blew the turn, hit him so hard they shot up over the top of the car, landed on top of the car, knocked him off the track, and he came back and somehow still managed a podium, at the end of the race. So it was just those types of, one of those seasons that went magical. And we had a couple of those years, and it got to the point where we're looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, this is just too easy. I mean, we need to get up where there's more competition, or something needs to change here, because this isn't how racing is. It doesn't happen like this. This is just too easy. And then all of a sudden you get one of those years where the slightest little touch from a car cuts a tire down, and you're out on the first 2 laps of the race. And boom, it snowballs the other way. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me, man. We're better than this. I know we're better than this. So the question here is, was there ever a time in your career where you thought to yourself, man, this is just too easy. We need to change our game. And it's just because the racing gods have decided to smile on you, and things are coming really easy, but it is never easy. And boy, I'll tell you, that coin can flip the other way in a second.
Oh, no question about it. Again, for me, I knew I had, gotten my butt kicked enough times sportsman racing, and, so I knew what we were doing was magical, and I'm going to kind of turn this into a little bit of something a little different, because people, even now still ask me, it's like, man, y'all were so dominant in IHRA. How come you can't do that in NHRA? Well, if you go back and look during, I don't know, just pick a year, 04, 05, whatever, when we were crushing everything in the IHRA, we were doing, a handful of races on the NHRA side of things while handicapping ourselves with the 25 over on the supercharger, because our job was racing the IHRA. Werner paid us to race in the IHRA. So we would go do the NHRA races and kind of look at that as testing. But we went to 3 consecutive final rounds one year on the NHRA side of things. Now, they were 3 runner-ups, but we were, kind of giving ourselves that challenge of, one, handicapping ourselves at 25 over on the supercharger, and 2, racing, the larger series and still going over there and going rounds. I mean, I can't even remember. We raced Kenny Bernstein in one final, and I can now tell this story. And I really honestly haven't shared this a whole lot, but why not? Y'all are friends. It's just us watching this, right? Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah.
The truth of the matter is, and I'm not saying we did this because we didn't, but we had instructions straight from Mr. Greg Werner, president of Werner Enterprises, to never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, beat the Budweiser car. Werner Enterprises did about $500 million a year of business with the Budweiser.
Hauling their beer. I was just getting ready to ask it. That's why it was.
Yeah,
That
about
is
$500 million
awesome.
a year in business. Yeah. We did race the Budweiser car in the final. We did not on purpose smoke the tires, and that's the truth. We did not. We got beat, by the Budweiser car. I think that was Houston. The following race was Bristol. Lost to the Army car in the final round, which at that point, a lot of people were losing to that Alan Johnson tuned Army car. We smoked the tires and blew up, and Tony smoked the tires and blew up a little further down the racetrack, and we did. And then we raced Corey Mack in the final in Atlanta. So that was, 3 runner-ups that we had while our job was racing the IHRA side of things. So, but what we did and what was going on in that time frame, was certainly unbelievable time and much appreciated. And I probably don't, think about that often enough to appreciate it. And I know I will one of these days. I don't have any intentions of quitting anytime soon, but those trophies that I was talking about upstairs, one of these days they'll come down and get unwrapped out of the plastic, and I'll kick back and wait on people to stop by the house and tell stories about them, I'm sure.
I mean, you've got, about another 40 years? Chris Karamazini just shut her down. I mean, at like 90, didn't he? So you should be good.
Yeah, I don't have any intentions of quitting anytime soon. And the truth is, I'm having as much fun as I've ever had doing this. A few years ago, I got on a health kick. I'm probably at 56 years old. I am probably now healthier than I've ever been, and that's being truthful. Just yesterday, you can go check out on Instagram and Facebook. I was 20, 30 foot up a tree with a chainsaw cutting limbs out from an ice storm at 56 years old. And of course I got hammered on the comments about doing that, but I don't feel old and I don't intend, my back feels old. Let me say that. But yeah, I feel good driving the race car right now. I'm having a whole lot of fun. And now I feel like, I've done it for long enough that I can roll with the punches probably a little easier. The highs and lows, are not so dramatic anymore as they once were, and I love it.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Man, you've given us some great races over the course of your career, of course, and watching you scrap from the bottom and not only make it, but be very, very successful at it. Stepping up the run with the competitors at NHRA doesn't come any more difficult than that, and certainly have proven you're worthwhile to be in that league with the rest of those guys, fresh off that final round there just a few days ago at Phoenix, and certainly a worthy title contender, man. We wish you the absolute best, of course, going forward here in 2022, and thanks for taking the time, my friend.
Well, I absolutely appreciate it. I was honored that y'all asked me to be a part of the show, and it doesn't get any better than sitting down with you two to tell war stories. And in this case, we're doing it for the world to see. And there's a lot of stories that get told that, maybe once I'm through driving, we'll tell some more of those.
We look forward to that as well, man. We'll all have plenty to tell once we don't have to worry about being politically correct.
Yeah. And thank you for supporting our product with Fatheadz. It's been a long relationship, and it means a lot to me. You were one of the few that was there early and still here today, so it means a lot to us for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of those relationships that started with Dalton with wearing the Fatheadz goggles in his motocross career, and me and you have been buddies for many years. Same as Ken there, that's for sure. The only thing that we don't have is that silky smooth Ken Stout voice. We just don't have that, Rico. We just don't have that.
Killing me.
I know. It's so.
Rico's got some pipes on him, man, isn't it?
Yeah. Listen. We can talk offline about a restaurant incident with he and I, and maybe a few too many beverages. And,
we told them, we warned them, but they didn't listen. Pretty soon they pulled the curtain.
Clearly.
Nice shade, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Clay Millican. Clay Millican, once again, thanks a lot, my friend. It's been a great time, and best of luck the rest of the year.
Guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you letting me come on.
Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out Fatheadz.com. That's Fatheadz with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheadz Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.